second day in Puerto Vallarta started as my every single day everywhere else, with doing my makeup followed by a bunch of work meetings. By the time I was finished with meetings, it was late afternoon and I decided to find a cafe to work from for the rest of the day. I Google mapped this cafe called Mate, but unfortunately I forgot to record myself. However, thanks to Google Maps, I can show you what it looks like and its location. The lady that worked at this cafe was super sweet, and the cafe had great Wi-Fi. I ordered a papaya smoothie, which was super delicious. I highly recommend if you're planning to visit, it's a good place to work. Unfortunately, Café Mate was closing within 40 minutes of me getting there, so I only had the chance to work on a couple of things before I changed locations. I started to walk to wherever my eyes were looking, as I frequently do when I travel. I passed this church. It's called Parroquia de Nuestra Señora del Refugio. It's in the centro and it is beautiful. You can take a closer look. All this, the cafe, the church, were on the same street as my Airbnb called Calle Peru, which means Street Peru. Then I headed towards the beach as I was trying to find another cafe I could work from. But instead of that, I ran into the first monument of the Malecon. Malecon is a word used in Spanish-speaking countries, especially in the nations of Latin America, for a stone-built embankment along a waterfront. A beautiful place in Puerto Vallarta to go for a walk. This gorgeous statue is called Los Milenios, which means millennia, and it represents the passage of time, starting with the origin of life and ending in the hope for the future and peace. The artist is Mathis Lidis, and it was installed in 2001. Eventually, I passed by this cafe, and after confirming it has internet, I finished my work here. I had a delicious michelada and some water and made friends with this musician. His name is Jose, and we ran into each other on the beach in the following days and had some good conversations. After my visit to the cafe, I continued to explore the Malecon. This statue is called Nostalgia by José Ramis Barquet, which he created to symbolize his love for his wife, Nelly Barquet. It is one of the first statues in the Malecon and was placed there in 1984. Really, there are many beautiful, very impressive sculptures on the Malecon by different amazing artists, but I only selected ones that made me feel some emotion at the very first glance. Some of my favorites. This one is called La Naturaleza como Madre, which means Nature as a Mother, by Adrián Reynoso. This one arrived to the Malecon in 1997. This installation is probably my favorite. It is called En Búsqueda de la Razón, which means In Search of Reason. This one was placed in the Malecon in 2000, and it is by Sergio Bustamante, who is a very famous artist in Mexico. I have seen his exhibits in several different parts of the country. I love Mexico. Every chance I get, I try to visit and explore. Okay, this one is also my favorite. Bailarines de Vallarta, Vallarta Dancers by Jim Dimetro. By the way, folkloric Mexican dance is absolutely stunning. If you ever have a chance to watch Ballet Folclórico de México, please do take that chance. Now I'm going to share a story of how I ended up watching Ballet Folclórico for the first time. Last year, in 2022, about the same time in May, I traveled to Mexico, and one of my destinations was Pachuca in the state of Hidalgo. I went to Pachuca to see a concert by Diego El Cigala, who is one of my favorite Spanish flamenco singers. To get to Pachuca, you have to first fly into Mexico City and then take about a 2-hour bus ride to get to Pachuca from the airport. When I came to the bus terminal, I met the bus driver, whose name was Alejandro. At that time, my Spanish was much more limited, but we managed to talk about where I'm from, about him sharing his home with Australian exchange students, and why I was visiting Pachuca. I told Alejandro about the concert as well as my passion for flamenco dance and music. Then Alejandro told me that when I returned to Mexico City, I should go see his son dance in the folkloric Mexican ballet. At that point, we have arrived to Pachuca. Alejandro gave me his son's contact information, helped me with luggage, and helped me get a taxi to take me to my Airbnb in Pachuca. This was yet another example of completely pure, selfless human kindness that I experienced on my every visit to Mexico, which I also described in my last video. When I returned to Mexico City, I did go see his son dance in the National Mexican Ballet in the main theater of the city called Palacio de Bellas Artes. Not only did he dance, but he was a soloist and performed one of the most technically difficult, in my humble opinion, parts of the entire performance. This was the deer dance. According to my research, this dance belongs to one of the indigenous tribes of Mexico called the Yaqui Indians, and it pays tribute to the deer's enduring spirit after it has been hunted. Unfortunately, I didn't capture the footage of the deer dance, but here's Alejandro's profile and you can see what an amazing dancer he is. If you follow him, you will probably get a chance to see him performing this dance in his stories, and here's him in costume. This was a lengthy detour, but the sculpture of Vallarta dancers really reminded me of every sensation that I felt on my trip to Mexico a year ago. Now back to Puerto Vallarta. After I finished exploring the Malecon, I spent some time on the beach trying to capture footage of a pelican diving into the water in slow motion. I think I have succeeded. After watching the second sunset of my trip on the beach, I continued to walk and reached Zona Romantica. This is a gorgeous area with a lot of restaurants, has many beautiful corners, and is very popular with the LGBTQ community. However, for my tastes, it is a little bit too touristy. This is also a big party area, and one thing I did not enjoy about it is being offered substances that I have no interest in. However, I do understand that the only reason they're being offered to people who look like foreigners is because there is demand. I did not get a chance to visit Zona Romantica during the day on this trip, but next time I go, I definitely will. I passed a number of really beautiful and interesting art galleries that were closed in the evening. As I continued to walk along the shore, I reached Playa de los Muertos. Translated as Beach of the Dead, this happens to be one of the most popular beaches in Puerto Vallarta. Next to the beach, there is Los Muertos Pier. It's a frequently photographed place in Puerto Vallarta, and some call it the symbol of the city. This pier was completed in 2013, and it looks very beautiful at night, especially when it's all lit up. The bay surrounding it is called Bahía de Banderas, and it happens to be a very important breeding and birthing ground for the humpback whale. In the winter month, starting in December, it is a great place to go for whale watching. This was the last thing I did. After this, I went back to my Airbnb in Cinco de Diciembre. It took me about 30 minutes. Puerto Vallarta is very safe for walking at night.